All right, so we're back with another episode of Crankly Speaking. Daryl's in Belgium, just finished Amstel Gold race. Just a reminder, guys, it's Simon Kessler in Boulder, Colorado, and Daryl Impey right now in Belgium, but living in Australia. We're both from South Africa, old teammates. I was also his coach when he was a junior. And we're talking with our new podcast channel, Crankly Speaking. You're watching us either on YouTube or check us out on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. So, Daryl, this past weekend, actually yesterday, Amstel Gold, you were in the car in the thick of the action. What are your initial thoughts, or tell us a little bit about what that was like to be in the car and experience the race as team director with Israel Permitek?
Oh, thanks. Thanks for having me again. The race, it's always a crazy race, Amstel Gold. The roads are so narrow. There's so much going on. It was a pretty uneventful start. Group of 8 wins, slipped off the front. No big teams there. As us as a team, we obviously marked the teams that had similar ambitions to us. It was like basically Trek, Ineos, EF, guys that have got similar multiple cards to play on the day. But the whole was, we all knew it was going to come down to a point eventually. The break was slowly coming back. The section that gets really narrow in Amstel Gold is like around kilometer 145, but it's a series of climbs in succession on narrow roads, easy to block the road, easy to force a move to go away, and easy to miss something, to put a bit of pressure on teams that are behind or didn't nail the run into those sections. So the teams had the same kind of idea. When the break was coming back to around, it was like 30, 40 seconds coming to the Gulpenberg, you can imagine riders pushing for position. The Gulpenberg's very steep. The running is straightforward, but it's very narrow. But there was always going to be someone taking a risk there, and I'm not too sure what happened. We didn't have live coverage until about Hoppers 2, so it kind of came on just after that. But massive pile up. Remco was involved, Wout was involved, heaps of guys. It happened at the front of the peloton, so there were heaps of riders involved. We lost 2 guys, Nick Schultz and Riley Sheehan, so real big bummer, because we had a plan for the section that followed after that with those guys, so we're a little bit damage control at that point. But I mean, it was carnage. Like the best. Shane Archibald, he's a mate of mine, and he's director at Red Bull, and this just shows you how a day can just go bad in 5 seconds, right? They had a couple guys down on the ground. They had a guy that thought his bike was okay. He rode off down the road, like 500 meters down the road, realized he had a puncher. So they had like 3 guys on the road. They were looking after them, but then they had another guy up the road. Now he's got a puncher. Can't get through the carnage. They're just waiting. So that rider's out the race. The 3 riders that are down are out the race. One of their favorite, Van Gils, he was down there as well. Then the only guy that they had left in the race with a shot of doing well was Adrian, straight up at the top of Gulpenberg. He was standing up there with his bike, and his chain had snapped. So in the crash and everything else, he didn't even have the crash, but then his chain snapped. So their whole team was basically out of the race at 145k. And then they had a Dutch rider, Van Dijk. And of course, being Dutch, he wants to finish Amstel, so they were just basically following their lot. Like, he was just riding around. So it just shows you these races, how technical and how hectic they are. We were lucky to get through there, but we all saw it. Alaphilippe put in a big attack, really made the selection on the Gulpenberg when we came the other side. That looked really interesting, but I was questioning it, going, he's going to go toe-to-toe with Tadea for the next 60Ks. This is going to be a big ride. And it was quickly dropped and out of the picture at that point. But Tadea didn't look as good. We even said in the car, doesn't look like he's the same. It didn't look the same dominance. And he has to be getting tired, let's be honest.
Well, yeah, I think I read that somewhere that he did say he was tired from Paris-Roubaix.
He has to be.
Which is, you got to be. I mean, they said the muscle damage apparently is worse than like running a marathon, from Paris-Roubaix, just all over muscle damage, just from being beaten up by the cobbles. But here's something what stood out to me with Alaphilippe, which you just mentioned. there's so many guys I think are scared of today. They're waiting for today to attack, right? And there's Alain Philippe with the heart of a champion, right? Like being the first one to attack. To me, that just shows who he is as a bike rider, a guy who's just not scared to go for it. What do you think about that? Even though he did blow up eventually, I mean, it was just cool to see that he wasn't scared. He was willing to take it to today.
I think I think the whole peloton wanted to take it to today. I think the only guy that could go toe to toe was Remco. Um, they had Quickstep had a plan. They were going to ride for Remco from the start. Q36 also riding for Pidcock, also UAE riding for obviously for today. But that we knew was going to happen. I think everybody else in that peloton was trying to use their numbers, trying to use the course, trying to find a way to put pressure on these teams. There's no doubt you're better off being ahead of these guys when they attack, because when they do nuke it and they do their 5 minute flat out effort, there's only 3 or 4 guys that can handle it, and then you're anyway racing for 4th or 5th. But if you can get ahead of that and they catch you, then you might be in the picture again. Because the damage is done, then it's about managing the situation. You have to try something. I mean, it was interesting because we had the managers meeting, and a manager just kind of fish around. You talk to each other. How's it going? What's tomorrow? Nobody gives anything away. But as we were walking out, saw some teams talking to each other. Like, we got to go together. I heard it. We got to go together. We got to try something. And it just like we were thinking it. I was like the whole peloton was basically thinking it. If you weren't one of those 3 teams, everybody was just planning and getting up the road, getting ahead of it before the real action started, and then
Do you think that's going to happen more and more, where teams like almost combine against someone? Do you like today? When you saw that Remco, he was quite patient. He used his teammates to chase down. He didn't go immediately after today himself, right? He let his teammate do the work. You had guys working together. It's almost like they had a bit of a collaboration going, trying to bring him back. Do you think like back, that's been around forever, where you leave a rider out there and you just let him die. The problem is today doesn't die. He just keeps going and pulls away. But do you think that could become more of a thing where the only way to beat today is really even though it's technically not allowed, is to kind of combine against him with other teams together?
Well, I don't think they're colluding. I don't think any teams are colluding. The fact is the bike race is going up the road and you have to chase it. It's not like, well, so and so started first, that means we can't pull with them. What I think is going to happen, and I think will happen not immediately, but the way Tadej wins is he rides away from, he puts everyone on the limit, everybody loses their teammates, there's nobody left to chase, maybe just the good guys are left to chase, they're riding for a podium, they start, not pulling turns as they're getting closer to the end, they start thinking about second place, whereas maybe Remco had a plan to say, you know what, if he goes up the road, I've got a strong enough team to just keep him at 30 seconds. And if he's riding at 30 seconds just ahead of me for 50 Ks and I'm in the wheels, I'm pretty sure I could jump across 30 seconds, And that is what I think he did. It was a smart race from him. It was unfortunate because he was in that crash that I spoke about earlier, and he took like 30K to get back.
You did say he felt like that lost him the race.
Oh, that would have cost him. I mean, you've got, Wout was also caught in the crash. There were heaps of guys that were caught in the crash. And only a select few, only the creme de la creme made it back. There was the guys that were down for a little bit too long, or we were car 13, so we like 500 meters back. By the time that race stopped, we like 500 meters back. We hear a crash on the radio. Schultze needs a back wheel. The mechanic is just running. Yarrick is just running with a wheel. But it takes, how fast can you run 500 meters? It takes time through the cars, through the people. Then you got to get the wheel out. You've lost 2 minutes before you even get going. So Remco got up quickly. I saw it. So we saw the gold bike coming back. That's how I knew Remco had crashed. But it depends when you get up.
Yeah.
But the thing is, those guys always make it back. And why do they always make it back? They've just got such an engine, They're able to absorb that, then they can still race the final. But it counted against them at the end. And it was interesting because, Skalmoser was having a great race up ahead there in between. when Remco jumped across to him, we had a great performance from Joe Blackmore from us. He's first time riding Amstel. He's a young rider. Um, really was impressive. The only time he was riding for fourth place, and unfortunately up the Cowberg, the wheels fell off the final time up. But if you look at his performance, was a fantastic ride from our team. But yeah, the guys that are in that front group there, those guys are all making, top dollar. Those guys, that's the creme de la creme of cycling. So we were pretty chuffed to have Joe up there. Um, your first Amstel, you with those boys, you've got a bright future.
Yeah, he's a Class C rider. I mean, he won, Tour de l'Avenir last year, so that just shows what kind of rider he is. Also, last year he was up there in some of these classics. I remember. I think wasn't he fourth in one of them?
No, last year
Helping
he
one
was
of
still
these
riding.
guys.
Last year he was actually he won 11 year last year. This is his first year pro. Um,
But I think
but
he
he
guest
won.
rode.
He rode quite a
Yeah.
few races in the Conti team where we mixed our team up with theirs. But yeah, he performed the whole of last year. I think he won like 8 races or whatever, and good races. He won Liège. He won. So a very
That's
classy
impressive.
rider.
Yeah.
Mountain
What do you
bike as
think?
well.
Yeah, so many guys seem to come from there, eh? It's cyclocross and mountain bike. I wonder that intensity, what it gives you, that because those races are more intense, than road racing. So it definitely
Hmm.
helps them in their development. What do you think about in the final? We saw Remco, they were working well together. Obviously, he's driving it more than Skelmos. Skelmos is like on the limit, but still doing a lot of work and helping. Do you think it was a mistake just to immediately, attack today, accelerate past him? And then also playing the final, like in hindsight, maybe Remco was stronger than today in the last bit. It looked like it. Do you think he should have attacked on the cowboy instead of
You
waiting
know,
the sprint?
it's so hard to say. I didn't know how Remco was feeling, and I didn't know how the rest of them are feeling. I mean, us watching it on the TV, you go, "Why is he not going?" We've got to remember these guys are human too. They also suffer. You know, they're also suffering. You've got a guy like today. Remco also doesn't want to make a mistake and try to do something, and then maybe today's got one last bullet and he hits over him. Also, you got to remember Remco beat Wout van Aert 2 days before in Brabantse Pijl. Probably backed himself for the sprint. So it was difficult to say, but the question that I asked for the two guys that were, Skalmers was obviously hurting. I said, why wouldn't you just get rid of him? Up the pace on the climb, maybe get rid of him, then start playing a little bit of cat and mouse in the final, because Skalmers is also not slow. It's also the end of a hard bike race the whole day. I would have just eliminated that. It's easy for me to say, but this is all hindsight. Um, but it would have been, now that we know he won, we were kind of like, oof, kind of played it into his hands. He wasn't gifted it. He had to suffer like a dog to get over there, no doubt. But they didn't take it to him at all. And even Skalmers was so, he's at our hotel here too. So it was cool to see their celebration last night. But like he couldn't believe it, He didn't believe he was going to beat those guys. And it was so good for cycling. It was so good for everybody to see a different winner, a bit of a surprise. I think we've seen so much surprises, or we've just seen great bike races lately from all these classics. Like, it's just been good to watch. It's although there's been one dominant person, there's also been some times where maybe not always worked out in their favor, and there's someone else that surprised us and won. So it's good for the sport. It's also good for other teams, to get some big successes like this. Yeah,
It's
it
great.
was interesting. Those guys are all class acts. They're
Yeah,
obviously
Wout
working.
again. Wout
Yeah,
again
Wout
at
was just
fourth
there.
place again.
He
Fourth
just
again.
a little bit unlucky. Shame, you got to feel for him. He's been a bit unlucky as well this year. Michael Matthews is still there, fifth place. Ben Healy's still always there. These races, it's the usual guys that are there. Mara Schmidt did a good ride. Yeah, it was interesting. There were some teams with two men there. We wanted Joe to just use those teams. There was a point where we said, okay, now like Jaco and Visma's going to be riding for a sprint. So we kind of got Joe to sit tight. But then there was a point where Woods and Matthews actually took off. And, when you're on your last legs, you can't really just follow an attack when you're thinking, I just got to get up the Cowberg. So, yeah, all in all, it was a good race. It was great to be in the car. Like, I loved it. Yeah,
The
it's so cool.
crowds are crazy there. The
It's
crowds
so
at the
yeah.
yeah.
I actually got a good bicep from holding onto the thing, because Renee, we got two DSs in the car with myself and Renee was driving, and Yeah, he's not afraid. He's not afraid to hit some corners and slide the car a little bit. And I was
Is it almost
crossing.
scarier? Is it
I don't know
almost
how you
scarier
can
in the
be.
car than the peloton? Or
I don't know how you can be a mechanic in the back there because I would be so sick. They're so used
really?
to it, you know. Um, but yeah, I think there's the interesting part for me is, and maybe you can answer this, is why? How do these guys come to these kinds of events, these races, which are known to be like, you would expect them to have some kind of prep, like, of course they've prepared, but nothing can prepare you like racing can prepare you. They came, like Remco's been out for ages. How does he
Yeah.
get to a stage where he comes to the world's best bike rider, although he's one of the world's best bike riders? But how does he not? How does he hit his target and come here like pinging like he never left the peloton?
Well, I think, for one, altitude camp has that is now the doping of the current generation, right? Going to altitude.
I wouldn't
And I
put
know,
that in the same brackets though.
well, it's not doping, but it's giving
I would
you
say
like,
performance gain over doping.
but it's giving you a massive benefit. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, there's no other benefit than I can think of. Maybe some heat training as well. But if you think about it, Visma are spending months and months at altitude camps in the year, right? And there's a reason for that. There's clearly it gives them a massive, massive game. Even about you see him skipping, some of the big races just to be at altitude. So I think on the one hand, the guys know if they spend 3 weeks at altitude and do specific training, they're going to get some increase in blood, values that are going to be significant, that are going to really give them an extra few percent. And then when they come back to sea level, I know Remco, he apparently, I heard that he did like 2 hard sessions behind the motorbike with his dad. So that, those guys just need a few sessions of high intensity to get back that racing rhythm. So those hard sessions behind the motorbike, that's old school. That's what we used to do. But there was no better preparation. I know some guys now using electric bikes too for that. I think you guys use that as well. But those sessions behind the motorbike, that simulates the speed, the cadence, the change of rhythm. That's what you need for racing. So if you have the blood values increase, the volume in your legs, and then you come to sea level and you do some higher intensity, because you can't push yourself as much at altitude. You actually can't get your heart rate as high typically like you can at sea level, and you can't work your muscles as hard. So that's why some guys ideally they come down to sea level while they're at altitude or lower elevation, or even train with oxygen back in the day, so that they can really stress the muscles enough, right? Because you can't get that same kind of strain on the muscle at altitude because you're tapped out earlier, because you don't have enough oxygen. So I think what they're doing is they really know how to use altitude now. They know how to use that to their benefit, combined with some heat training to extend the benefits of altitude. There's some research where if you come back from altitude and you combine it with 2 to 3 heat sessions per week, you can extend the benefits from altitude for much longer than you would normally if you just didn't do any heat sessions. So I think the teams have really figured out the combination of altitude plus what they need then to bring on the race form. But I think they work together. I do think the key is the altitude piece in my opinion. I mean, I know Remco was at Sierra Nevada. He just put out a video of his training there. So I think he was there probably at least 3 weeks training, before he came down to sea level.
But
What do
how
you?
long do you think you need to stay up at altitude, and how close can you come down from altitude to come to a race?
Well, I think you need at least 3 weeks to get the full benefits, but I think you can get good benefit from 2 weeks. There's also, you need to sleep at between, I think, 2,000 and 2,500 meters, ideally. Lower, you're still getting benefit, for sure. I live at 1,500 meters like we used to live at in
Well, you
Johannesburg.
just want to race on the weekend, so you're going right.
Yeah, yeah, well, I'm racing the old guys, but it's fun, man. It's still fun when you feel like you're 13 again racing bikes and you're 50, It's actually quite a fun feeling, It's not as hard as they
Till you
think.
break your collarbone, and your wife says, "What are you doing? What are
I
you
know, I
racing for?"
know, I know. That's the only problem. I know, for sure. But yeah, but no, I think I do think that the guys definitely have. I think coming back to sea level, some guy there's a window there. There's some people that actually don't feel that good for whatever reason. I think you have to understand yourself and go many times to really get your own formula to see what works. I know. I think Wout, he comes back very late. Like when you saw before the classics, he was back like 2 days before, which is really pushing it. whereas other guys I think need to come back maybe 5 to 7 days before and add some high intensity at sea level to get their body primed again. So yeah, so I think it's really just learning, going many times, and then understanding yourself and coming up with a good plan that works. But yeah, it's interesting. I think it's clearly what's interesting is also Visma spends a lot of time at altitude, and UAE they don't spend nearly as much time at altitude. They don't really believe in altitude in the same way, although obviously they do altitude camps before the Grand Tours and all that.
They race, man. UAE just race.
They race, and they also do less volume than teams like Visma. They do a lot more high intensity. They come into races fresher, and they all there to race. They're all hungry to win because they know they don't have. If you're on a team like that, you don't have many chances to win. If you're in the races with today, so every race you have an opportunity to win because they do a good job with sharing the opportunities. I feel like. If you're one of those guys where it's your day to perform, like you got to take it with both hands, because maybe the next race you're on the front riding for Ayuso today, so that's going to be your role. So,
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's just interesting to know. Like, it's just interesting that everyone's doing something different, and it's like just seems like some teams are really nailing it and some teams aren't. But then you've got like when you look at some of the when I look at the teams that is nailing it, and I look at which riders they have. Are they nailing it because they got their preparation right, or are they nailing it just because they got the best bike riders? You know
well,
what I
I think
mean?
it's a combination of both. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's so much. It's a little bit skewed in a sense of like, these teams are all doing everything right, and other teams are not doing it right. Because if you slot any of those top five into any team, any team would be winning. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's the thing people don't realize. They see UAE dominating, but their budget is so massive that, for their 10 riders, other teams can afford one of those guys. They can afford 10 or 15 of those guys, of the same level. So that's what people don't realize is that it's also an arms race with budgets. What are your thoughts on that, where they've talked about budget caps? Do you think that's something, a good idea?
Look at those three guys that were in the front of the race there. There's probably a 12 million euro breakaway, That's that's the difference, right? That could be a budget of some teams. Okay, they don't all ride for the same team, but and you look at the top 10 of there's a lot of money in that group there. And you look at the teams that made it in the final. There's some big money getting thrown around there, which guarantees them guys in that position to have more players in the final, right? The depth that you can get from buying certain kinds of riders, and even these days when you're trying to find riders to buy, they're so difficult to get because these guys are on multiple year deals. Obviously we're in a process now of thinking about the next years, and I mean all the teams are in the process of that. Which riders you want to sign, and it's very difficult. There's so many guys that you want to sign, but then there's so many guys that are locked up for like a few years. So then it's the race to find the next guys. Very competitive now. Very competitive space.
Yeah. What also stands out to me in this sport is that how, guys are so focused on this time of year, right? Like teams, everything, the goals, all focused on this time of year. But then when you come to the racing, it's like more than 50% of the guys are like out with some kind of injuries, issues, sickness. It's like such a hard sport to nail at the right moment, right? Because there's so many things that could happen, between sickness and injury and
we're one of those teams. We came to but at this period, we've missed a couple leaders. Woodsy's out with a broken collarbone. We've got Flesh Valon, which is his perfect race for him. Stevie Williams has been injured for a while. So we've had quite a few guys knocked out this year, and we had the same with our classics group. We've had Ackerman, who's been also, he had that crash where he went over the handlebars over the speed hump, but he hasn't come back yet. So the cost to the team is immense because these are our leaders, and then when you have a finish like the one that Pascal fell in, and now we've lost our main sprinter for the year. We're hoping that he's going to get back soon, but I mean the costs are huge for a team like ours. So we've really been hit to the start of the year when we compare, previous years. But I think it's not due to it's just due to a lot of bad luck. But now we're going to Flesh Falon on. That's on Wednesday. Tomorrow we're actually going to do recon. We've got a good team here again, similar team. We're getting George Bennett, who's coming in. He's taking a place of Corbin Strong, who's he went home. That was the plan anyway. And then Stevie Williams will be racing. I just did an e-bike session with him actually. Did 90 Ks with him, and I went to a very, very dark place.
You did or he did?
I did. I took gels and everything. Like I was blowing up, man, with the e-bike.
Really?
I couldn't even keep up with him. Like,
You
yeah,
need to get something else, a better motor or something.
mate, it was ungoverned. It was everything. I had everything and it wasn't even flat. I mean, I had to run a little bit lower because it was 3 hours, but it just shows you how quick my fitness has gone down the hill and how strong these guys are, right? But yeah, it's he's going to be starting there. We've got a good team. It could be wet in the final, so not like previous years where it was last year where it was pretty feral. But look, it can change. Eh? Like last year was also supposed to be a bit of rain in the finish, and it was probably the coldest Flesh Falon ever. I've never seen so much carnage in my life. Riders getting picked off their bikes. Like I saw riders there in that race last year, stopping their team car during like in the final lap. Like they're like, I can't ride anymore. Just give me my rain bag. I need some warm clothes. I can't. Like they couldn't even ride to the bus, which was like 3 k's further. They're like, can I get in the car or can I just like you couldn't function. They were
Really?
hypothermic, eh? Hypothermic. It was actually like too dangerous to race. Um, Actually, Stevie said, I actually hope it's the same as that because then I've got a better chance.
Where is he from? Is he Welsh or something? Like from the
Yeah, he's
coldest
Welsh.
parts of. Yeah,
He's
those
Welsh.
guys are tough. They're used to riding in the rain. That's all they do up there, right?
Yeah, so I think yeah, it's going to be super exciting. It's a different start. Like every year in Flesh, there's always a little bit of a different start town. But it's still going to be the same thing. It's going to be who can climb the Murderhoy the fastest. Of course, you've got the same guys today, Remco, the usual suspects. We're still waiting for the official start list, but um, they're going to be there. And then we just got to see if we can get Joe Blackmore up there as best we can.
I'd be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if they pull today from that race. Just seeing how tight he is and focus on Liège. I
Yeah,
do
it could
think
be.
Liège is going to be an epic battle between Remco and Tadej. I think Remco is definitely on the up and up, with his form, and I wouldn't be surprised if Remco, pulls off the big one in Liège. But Flesh Wallonne, that finish, I mean, how steep is that climb? It's what is it, like a K or a K and a half or something?
Oh yeah, it's about well, you go under the cart at a K to go, just as the climb starts. So it's 1 kilometer, but it's I don't know what the fastest time is, but very very steep, like ridiculously steep. You just basically when you stand up in the front of your bike and you've got to lean forward to like get the saddle, like get ahead of it, push down on the pedals. Very, very difficult climb. When you see the people standing on the side of the road, you actually realize how steep it is. And to do a sprint over the top, like that last 100 meters, if you go watch like last year or previous years of the Flesh Falon, go look how long that last 100 meters takes them to get to the line. It's a line that just never ever comes. And you just see them like they sprint, they put their head down, they look up, they're like, gee, still another 50 meters. Putting down, look up again, like still 20, but you can lose everything. If you stop pedaling there, you stop. So you got to go to the line, which is the thing
Yeah,
with
it's
Flesh.
got to be well
And it's a
over twenty
challenging
percent.
circuit. Like
Yeah.
it's a challenging circuit, lots of different climbs, a little bit different to last year because last year they couldn't do the one climb because it was roadworks. So this year their climb is back in. So we have got an extra climb in the circuit. Although we do one lap less now because their climb's in, I think. Yeah, we've so that climb's tough. It's just before the run into the Mur, so it should make an interesting, great launch pad for today and Remco. If they go together, then that's probably the best chance to win the race. To be honest,
I wouldn't be surprised if he does race today, if he doesn't like hold back a bit and try and win it up the final climb because he's always
oh, he'll
out there.
wait
He
to
does
win.
breakaways. Yeah, I think so because being out in a race, like every race, being out front, like riding away from the best riders in the world. I mean that is also requires a huge amount of mental strength as well as is incredibly taxing and fatiguing, both physically and mentally. I mean that's got to be wearing on him by now. Being so aggressive in every one of these big classics.
Especially when the guys behind are not giving up. Guys are like when it's still 30 seconds, 20 seconds, they can see it's coming down. They just get hungry. They're like, what? This is the day. We're going to catch this guy. We're going to bring him back. And I'm sure in his head he's just going, oh, can I just get the next time gap to say 40? And then it's still like it's just coming down. There's nothing more disheartening than that. He even admitted to Remco, I saw there was some backstage footage of them, and he just said he was dead, 15k to go. You could tell. He hit the headwind section, and it was like, I don't know if I feel like doing this again. I wouldn't mind a couple of mates now to get me through this. But yeah, they're champions, man. They're champions, and it'll be interesting. I think Alaphilippe's going to be a good card to see on Wednesday, just for judging what he did. It's a shorter race. It's only 200k, so there'll be a lot more guys in the mix. Although it's a very specialist climb in the end. I think we'll get a lot more guys floating around there, trying to wait for that final climb.
I'm excited to see how.
I think the last time a breakaway won at this race was like in the 70s.
Oh, really? Yeah. I'm excited to see T-Bone Ace and see what he can do up there, because I mean he's got an impressive finish up a climb. Like he's just a winning machine in the smaller races. But I'm really excited to see if he's there, what he can do against those guys up such a finish.
Yeah. I mean he's definitely on our radar as someone to watch. But look, at the end of that race, when you get to that point, it's just about who's got the legs. There's no real tactics. It's not really get on this one's wheel, get on that one's wheel. It's just like if you got the legs and you can go, you go, and there's space to move because everyone's just either pinned on the wheel or they just
What gear are they using? They're probably obvious.
They just race what they race. They've got 40 chain rings, and then
that's sprint though. Like sprint, what do you think? There's like in a 40, 50,
60, 40, 23 or 20.
That's steep. Right?
Yeah, no, it's steep. It's probably steep.
How's Stevie looking? Is he okay, or is he not in the same form as last year?
He's okay. He's upbeat. I think he's just happy to be at the bike race. It's was touch and go even if he was going to come. So. He's at a difficult period where he hasn't raced since down under. He did a Brutto last week. That was to try and see if we could see how he got through. He got through it okay. There's no doubt we'll see how he is tomorrow, but the expectation's not as high as last year.
And then Liège on Sunday, anything you want to highlight there? I know you're taking one race at a time, but that's going to be the big one for the Ardennes Monument. Yeah. Big showdown, I think, between Tadej and Remco in that one.
Yeah, but it's also that race is also gives a lot of opportunity for teams like Trek, EF, guys with a lot of options to play. So I don't think it's going to be handed to them on a plate. If everyone waits for La Redoute and that situation, that's kind of handing it to Remco and Tadej. But we'll see. I mean. We'll see. I think it's still going to be the same guys at the finish line. I don't see any changes to it, but I think it'll be an interesting race. I think it won't be just like the 2-horse race. I think there'll be some guys in between. There'll be someone that's attacked early. There'll be people sniffing around. So, be cool. I mean, it's the big one, right? It's like second last monuments of the year. So it's funny because all the monuments come right at the start of the year, and the last one's Lombardia. So this is the end of nearly all the monuments. So
I'm surprised Amstel is not a monument. Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I think maybe just history, prestige, I guess. They're even talking about making Strada a monument. It's a great race, but probably doesn't have the same. I don't know. There's probably room for 2 more, I'd say.
Yeah. I mean, Amstel's always been a big classic, So.
You could always put the Argus in there too. The Argus would be.
Argus, the Cape Cycle Tour, isn't it? Our South African.
South African listeners will like that comment.
They'll know what we're talking about. I think everybody else won't know what we're talking about.
They're googling Argus right now. They're like, "What? I'm going to do that race."
No, it's the Cape Cycle Tour. It's for those of you who don't know. It's every March. We did it when we were younger. It's like, is it the biggest one-day
It's biggest one-day time event in the world. Yeah.
Yeah, what, like 30,000 or something like that?
I used to get 30,000. I think it's dwindled a bit.
Yeah, I mean, Daryl raced it with Lance Armstrong back in the day when he was on Radio Shack. You've probably done it 10 or more times, I imagine. I did
never that much. Never that much. That was the last time I did it.
But it's only 100K and it's only 2.5 hours. It's nothing. It's definitely not a monument status, that's for sure.
No,
but it's a good race. And for those who want to see Cape Town, it's a good reason to go there because Cape Town is such a beautiful place, you know.
Yeah.
Cool. So, all right,
Right,
I
cool.
think
So,
we're gonna wrap it
well,
up.
we'll do
Yeah.
a debrief next week of all these races. I'll still be in Europe, so yeah, I'll give you guys the goss. What's been
That's
happening? Who
good,
doesn't
man. We
like
love,
each other?
yeah, we love having you there with the insider knowledge, you know, in the team car and also in the team hotels with the other teams. For those of you guys who are enjoying this, please follow us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, or YouTube. We have a new channel, Crankly Speaking, on YouTube. And please share. We're trying to build it up. We're starting, you know, slowly enjoying it, having fun. But please leave us your comments, give us some suggestions, some questions. We'd love to answer them for you guys. Anything for you
Good.
you want to say before we wrap it up?
No, it's just good to be here, and I'm glad we got these channels up. So, yeah, like, share, subscribe, as they say, and have a good week, everyone.
Awesome. All right. See you guys. Cheers.
Cheers.